All right, welcome back, everyone. Today I'm joined by Jonathan Ralph, one of the leading voices in Portugal's Golden Visa. Jonathan has personally guided hundreds of families through the process of actually obtaining a Golden Visa. He has a wider team that actually has processed 10% of Golden Visas in all of Portugal. So, Jonathan, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks a lot for having me along, Joseph. It's really great to be here with your good self. Actually, I really do love your Instagram content, and I'm looking forward to talking about Portugal, the Golden Visa, and how this can really change people's lives for the better.
Awesome. Well, I think the best place for us to actually get started and have a beginning is for some people who are considering residency here in Europe. Why is Portugal such a popular destination that you're finding at this point?
Well, there are many, many reasons actually why Portugal is so attractive, but I sort of see it boiling down to three main pillars. The first is the lifestyle, so safety, culture, food, climate. I mean, the weather is fantastic. Secondly, I mean, cost of living. You know, you live in the Greater Lisbon area, you know what this is like. Very competitive to much of very competitive when compared to much of the rest of Western Europe. And third, and actually the reason we're here to speak today is actually the residency pathway itself. So the Golden Visa allows families to secure EU residency and then actually ultimately qualify for a full citizenship with relatively little time spent on the ground each year. It's actually just 1 week on average per year. So that's about as flexible as it gets. In fact, the Portugal Golden Visa stands out here as it's now the only remaining European option that allows you to invest in a citizenship without having to relocate to that country.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So for viewers who may be new to this whole process and thinking about the Golden Visa, can you walk us through what the Portugal Golden Visa actually is and how it works?
Of course. So the Golden Visa, at its core, is actually a residency by investment program. So what that means, in essence, is that you make a qualifying investment in Portugal, and then in return, you and your family receive residency rights in the country. Now, this can ultimately lead to permanent residence or even citizenship after just 5 years currently. Although in practice, the full journey to citizenship is actually around 7 years when you factor in the processing time for the citizenship application itself in the back end. Now, the key attraction here is the flexibility, as like I just mentioned, only 7 days of physical presence per year are required on average. Unlike many other residency programs in Europe and other locations around the world that actually demand full relocation and subsequently establishing a tax residence in that country.
Awesome. I think that's going to help a lot of people for clearing that information up. So I know a lot of families that we actually speak to are confused on different information that's out there online because there's a lot of information online. What are the biggest misunderstandings that you're encountering right now?
Oh, there's a few. I spend quite a lot of my days fighting misinformation from overeager media outlets, to put it one way. Two things really stand out here. Firstly, people tend to assume that the program is only for real estate purchases. And therefore, the program ended when the real estate option for the Portugal Golden Visa was discontinued in 2023. Back in October 23, they actually removed real estate entirely from the qualifying stable of Golden Visa investments. However, the truth is that now there are still several qualifying routes remaining, just they do not include real estate anymore. So that's the first misconception. Secondly, many people don't actually realize just how established and proven this pathway to citizenship actually is. Portugal has issued thousands of golden visas over the years, and it's a well-regulated process with clear requirements. Citizenships have actually been granted to golden visa holders since 2018.
Hmm.
And the Gold Visa program itself was only introduced in 2012. So, yeah, we can quite clearly point to the track record here. We're not treading on new ground.
Yeah, that's interesting information. So I think this brings us very neatly into investment strategy here. So most people have heard about the 500,000, I would say euro, US usually, but it's euro. I guess it's USD actually, right? 500,000 investment for purchasing real estate property. And so with that being said, as you look at this, if people are investing into a fund, being the typical route for the Golden Visa, but now I'm starting to understand there are more I would say, nuanced options for people that are available in today's time rather than maybe what it was before.
That's exactly right. Previously, it's quite unfortunate now, there were thresholds where you could access the Golden Visa for less than 500,000. There used to be certain real estate thresholds at 280,000, 350,000. There were a lot of qualifying criteria associated with those real estate projects to access it at reduced thresholds. Unfortunately, now it is up at that 500,000 euro level. Anyway, back then, real estate was by a distance the most popular investment category until, like I say, it was removed in October 2023. And these days, you are typically looking at either a fund investment or a direct investment into a Portuguese business. And that's where we start getting into the more nuanced cases that you've just referenced there, Joseph. So whilst the 500,000 euro investment into a stock market fund, for example, would remain the most widely known investment case for the Portugal Golden Visa, there are also these structured opportunities that allow investors to participate with actually a much lower capital requirement, so we can get under that 500,000 euro threshold while still meeting the eligibility criteria for the Golden Visa itself. So nowadays, we actually have options where you can access the Golden Visa with as little as 325,000 euros, which is quite interesting and opens up the market to a few more people that potentially couldn't access it previously. It's quite an interesting time.
No, I find that to be very interesting. I think the first time you and I spoke, you told me about that. So I would like to dive into that a little bit. What exactly are these structured investments if we're talking about that specifically?
Okay, quite a lot to try and convey to you here, but trying to keep this as brief as I possibly can. Our most popular investment options now are a series of structured opportunities. As you just mentioned, these actually have been designed and built in Portugal's hospitality sector. That's done very deliberately because hospitality is actually one of Portugal's largest industries, making up about 20% of national GDP nationally. It is one of the sectors in which Portugal is legitimately a global leader, which makes it a reliable area to invest in, a lot more reliable than sort of emerging sectors in the economy. And the economy is, of course, significantly smaller than the US, for example. Now, unlike most hotel-linked Golden Visa projects, of which there are quite a few, those tend to be off-plan developments, which carry a significant level of construction risk. The investments that we sort of operate with these days are investments into established hotel groups. And specifically, there is one case where we do have a market-leading investment case that is proven really, really popular. And what we're talking about here is investing into completed, fully operational hotels that have a proven track record behind them. So you're not just investing in a construction site on the other side of the world, which can be a little bit intimidating. Now, the most popular option among this series of investment cases requires 399,000 euros of upfront capital. The counterparty will then provide a 101,000 euro upfront return, which you can then reinvest, which would then bring the total invested to that required 500,000 euro threshold for the Golden Visa. And then after 6 years, there's a contracted and guaranteed buyback, which is fixed at a value of 500,000 euros. So essentially, this is a fixed investment case where what you see is what you get. It's a reduced capital sum to get in, and then a fixed sum with profit at exit. And there are actually some variations that are also available inside that investment case as well. So for example, there is an option that uses a direct developer loan, which can reduce the liquidity requirements even further. And we have another step down, which is the lower cost 325,000 euro version. Although, to be frank, that one does tend to create some tax inefficiencies, particularly for American investors, and therefore it might not be the most suitable for the audience watching this video. It really depends on where they are in the world. But the key points here really are no construction risk, so stand out very much in the hospitality space. No upfront fees, no management fees, which you would typically see with a fund. The exit is guaranteed at a fixed value as well, so you know exactly what you're going to be getting at the end of the journey, and having that lower initial capital outlay versus more traditional 500,000 euro options, that can be a real benefit to people that are looking to minimize the amount of their wealth that they need to put into this project.
Hmm.
So really, just to try and sum this up in a nutshell, the majority of our new clients are actually now onboarding into these options. The main reason for that is the lower initial capital requirement, also the zero fee structure, which is very attractive and appealing to a lot of people, especially when it can feel quite daunting doing this from the other side of the world, USA, for example, or
Hmm.
other markets around the world. But really, these options have been designed to offer more accessibility, more peace of mind, and that's why they're popular.
I love it, man. I think that anytime you can lower the accessibility through capital is always interesting to people. So, but with that, people still ask us all the time about risk. So, how do you explain the risk profile of something like this that you're diving into?
People that know me, my friends, they maybe call me a little bit boring because I talk a little bit too much about risk. But that is the most important topic when you discuss any investment case. It is important to be explicitly clear here. There is no concept of investment without risk. Even when you put your money in a bank account, for example, that comes with a level of risk.
Hmm.
Now, with these options, we have tried to mitigate the topic of risk wherever possible. The most obvious one is construction risk, which I've just spoken about. When you are talking about businesses that have some kind of exposure to real estate assets, the risk of construction going awry is something that should be borne into consideration. But that is why we prefer working with completed hotels, not off-plan development, so that we can get rid of that element of the process. So that's the first and considerable risk factor. The second is performance risk, i.e., not getting the returns that you would expect from the investment. And we manage that by fixing the return, having that paid to the investor up front.
Hmm.
That then leaves the third risk factor, which is the primary risk concern, because we've managed to mitigate the first two, and that is counterparty risk. Now, that's the ability of the hotel group to honor the guaranteed buyback in 6 years.
Hmm.
And that's why there is actually an additional real estate guarantee as an important safeguard in the contracts, because the hotel can still repay its 500,000 euro debt obligation to investors using an asset from one of the hotels if the parent company that owns the hotel chain ceases to exist. So we've done that really to add an extra layer of protection to the Golden Visa investors going through this process. This structure that's used reduces many of the risks that people associate with Golden Visa investments as a result. But naturally, investors, clients should still take professional advice to ensure that it's the right fit for them before putting pen to paper on any particular investment case, especially over the longer term.
Got it. A lot of families are taking numbers into consideration, but whenever you're taking numbers outside of the consideration, what are families who you've worked with usually asking about and care about the most?
Um, Interestingly, it's usually not about the investment,
Mm.
actually. That tends to be more of a peace of mind play. So if someone can do that in a way that makes them feel good and allows them to sleep at night, that tends to be what most people are wanting, as long as the capital can be preserved. Really, it's not so much about the investment, it's more about what the Golden Visa actually enables. So a lot of the families that I speak to, I mean, I've worked with more than 100 families now on their Golden Visa journeys. Most of the people I speak to, they want European residency. They want a plan B for the future. They want education opportunities for their kids. They want the freedom to live, work, retire in Portugal or anywhere else in Europe. And of course, if you ultimately do this for citizenship, you don't necessarily need to relocate to Portugal at any stage. And you can use that European passport to then move to another European state later on, if that's what you would like to do. The investment in the Golden Visa is simply the pathway to doing that.
Mm.
So what I love most is seeing families use this additional optionality to secure the future for the next generation. I work with so many families that have young kids, and that's the main driver for this. And when we can see that plan really take shape, that's something that's really rewarding about this whole endeavor. And I mean, Joseph, I'm an expat myself. You're an expat as well. I happen to be a Brit that moved to Europe just before Brexit kicked in. So I know firsthand just how much richer my life has been
Mm.
as a result of gaining exposure to other cultures and now being in a privileged position to help other families do the same. It's a really great feeling. It's great to be in this industry, to be honest.
Awesome. Well, look, this for us, I think, Stephanie and I, my wife, we're both expats. I think this has been super helpful for us, but I think it's going to be helpful for people who watch this. One thing that people are going to ask after they get all this insightful information is where can they go to find more details or get in contact with you?
Well, the easiest way is to book a call via my website, or reach out directly through you guys over at Move Me to Portugal.
Mm.
I'm always happy to explore whether the Golden Visa is the right fit for any of your viewers, any of your audience. That's of course on a free basis, no obligation, either purely with the intention of giving people the information they need to take the right decision for them and their family. Just to understand if the Golden Visa is the right fit, or whether Portugal is indeed the right fit, or whether we should be looking at other visa modalities as well. So keeping a very flexible framework there. But if it transpires that the Golden Visa is indeed the right fit, that Portugal is the right fit, and that moves your viewers towards where they want to go, then the next step would be going a little bit deeper, and then we'd have a deeper dive consultation where we'll start designing the strategy. We'll talk about the investments that underpin the strategy, and talk about making sure that all the family members that need to be in scope can be included, and we get people to where they want to be. But first step, reach out through you guys. I think you're going to put some links around this video somewhere so people can get in touch. That would be the best way to get started.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jonathan. Like, for everybody that's watching this video right now, the viewers and people who follow us on Move Me to Portugal, Jonathan is one of the leading voices in this space, the Golden Visa space. So if you are truly considering moving here, you're truly considering going the Golden Visa route, we're going to put the links down below so that you can reach out to him directly, have that free consultation with him. I think it's very important to have that call. He has probably way more details that he can fit in this actual phone call right here in this video. So Jonathan, thank you again for your time, and I really appreciate you, man.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks a lot, Joseph.